It's my pleasure to introduce Jack Knott. Jack, I count on as a friend, and you're saying, okay, you're just sucking up to your boss. One of the things is he had a bogey. He had to raise $150 million for this place, and he did. So, you know, that's a pretty impressive amount of money for a public policy school. The other thing about the Price School is we are ranked number 4th in the country by US News and World Report. That's a much higher ranking than when Jack took over. And the 3 schools ahead of us are much larger schools than we are. We still deserve to be ahead of them, but they're much larger than we are. So I say, pound for pound, clearly we are the best public policy school in the country. And you know, Jack has been our leader over that period of time. And beyond
the best thing I did was hire Richard Green to direct the lesson.
Okay, I'm going to sit down now. I was going to say one more nice thing about you, which is Jack has an enormous commitment to having the Price School interact with the community in which it sits. And one of the reasons I am so proud to be at USC is because we sit in this extraordinary place, in this extraordinary city. And instead of turning our backs to it, which is what a lot of academic institutions do, we embrace it. And it's very much part of who we are. I mean, we like to think we are part of what they are. And Jack's leadership reminds us of that on a regular basis. And so with that, let me turn it over to Jack to introduce Jack Knott, Dean Jack Knott, to introduce our speaker for tonight.
I'm really pleased to be with all of you, and I'm happy to celebrate with you all. And I want to start out by just congratulating you on getting your completion of this great program. So give yourselves a round of applause. You know, this program is important to you and to the Price School, but what it's really important for are the communities in which you work. Because your new knowledge and leadership, that's where it's going to be applied, and that's where it's going to be making a big difference. So I know that you're going to have an impact in those communities, and that's what I'm most excited about. And leadership, a commitment to supporting learning and to improving the quality of life for people in their communities are certainly attributes of our speaker this evening. And I want to focus on those just for a moment. Emile Haddad has had over 30 years of development experience in the United States and overseas. He is Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of FivePoint Holdings, the largest developer of mixed-use coastal properties in Orange County, Los Angeles County, and San Francisco County. And before founding FivePoint, he was the Chief Investment Officer at one of the nation's leading home builders, Lennar Corporation, where he managed real estate investments and asset management. But in addition to his professional successes, which are really impressive, Emile is really committed to community and other kinds of service. He serves on the board of directors of PBS SoCal and on the board of Claremont Graduate University. He previously served as chair and remains a member of the board of trustees of UC Irvine, and he is on the real estate advisory boards of both UC Irvine and UC Berkeley. And I am most happy and grateful to say that he is also a member of the USC Price Master of Planning Advisory Board and a member of the USC Lusk Advisory Board since 2014. And now, just this past July, he succeeded our long-term chair, Stan Ross, as the Lusk Center's Advisory Board Chairman. Now, these are some really important shoes to fill. Stan is an icon in the field and has been Lusk Board Chair for a long time, but we could not be happier to have Emile agree to take on this leadership position for the Lusk Board. And I want to thank you personally for that. He also makes important contributions to the Price School through his support for the Diversity in Planning program and his leadership commitment to the Lusk Center's Ross program, which is also named after Stan Ross, Emeritus Chairman of the board. This program supports the mission of the Price School and of the Lusk Center to improve the quality of life and for the people and their communities through expanding and diversifying the pool of talented real estate developers in those communities. And I want to say, I have personally had the privilege of visiting FivePoint communities in Orange County, and I've been struck by their commitment to diversity, by their commitment to the preservation of the environment, by their outstanding educational facilities, which the company builds for the community, their understanding and innovative approach to intergenerational living, so grandparents get to live with grandkids, and their beautiful design and architecture. And all these elements really blend together to create a wonderful, livable, and sustainable communities. And I hope all of you get a chance to see what Emile is doing in his developments and how he is taking this creative new approach to building really sustainable, livable communities in California. So we're very grateful that he's here today. He mentioned to us that he started out his day in San Francisco speaking to 1,200 people at the Chamber of Commerce in San Francisco. He's ending his day with the Ross program. So we're very proud of his support for the important goal of increasing the diversity in the important fields of urban planning and real estate development. So once again, congratulations, all of the participants in the Ross program. Congratulations for completing the program. And please join me in welcoming Emile Haddad.
Thanks, Jack. That was very flattering. I think if my mom would have written it, she wouldn't have written it as well as it has been said. The beginning of what is known today as the Ross Minority Program, I don't know how many of you know that, that was a result of the 1992 riots. And the interesting thing is at that time, a group of people from USC decided that since there's going to be the development in the urban core where things needed to be rebuilt, required people who understood some of the issues that the urban environment in Los Angeles is going for. And it was interesting because it was dealt with as a program to deal with a crisis within a certain area. Because in 1992, we didn't need to understand a lot of the issues in the urban core because we were building in suburbia. And everybody was looking at, green fields and things like that. And that was great because it was needed. But it appeared at that time that it was a temporary issue that we had to deal with. Well, when I look today, I can tell you that I think the future in California is going to be all in the urban core. And more than ever, the Ross Minority Program and the School of Public Policy is needed because whatever the thought process was back in 1992, multiply that by 1,000. Because whether it is LA, whether it's San Francisco, whether any other urban core, we need people like you to come out, to take that leap of faith and to have the courage to come and do something like this. Because we need to understand the issues of those markets more than ever. Now, we were having a discussion before we came, and I think that the School of Public Policy today has a big responsibility as well, because we need now public policy to also readjust its lens to start thinking different than how we thought before. I was talking today, and I always often say that I think our industry is sticking its head in the sand and not acknowledging the fact that every other industry in the world is being disrupted by the digital revolution. Every industry. Uber disrupted transportation. Airbnb disrupted hospitality. And the story goes on. And we in the real estate business need to start realizing that the space as we knew it is going to be disrupted going forward. We don't know the answer, and nobody knows the answer. I was telling Jack and Richard that I don't think Jeff Bezos knows the answer. All he's doing is just disrupting things and seeing where they go. So I've been on this pitch lately saying, I don't care what we did before. I don't care if you're the expert of the past. As a matter of fact, I've been saying that I think my successes of the past might inhibit me from going forward because the backdrop is changing. Everything is changing. If you think about the last 100 years or 75 years in this country, everything we did based on an industry that's today becoming obsolete, which is the factory and the manufacturing, all that. We did it because of something called the automobile, which defined everybody's behavior. And if you look today at zoning codes, if you look at everything that we try to apply today, it feels to me like it is obsolete. Because zoning codes created silos. Commercial goes one place, residential goes someplace, and so on and so. And I don't believe that that's going to be the case going forward. So I think we're at this point in history that is very interesting, because what we're going to see going forward is something that we haven't seen. And therefore, there is no playbook that we can look at. So if you are in real estate and you go look at performance from the past or assumptions from the past, you're really looking at dead man walking. Take retail today. Who would run a pro forma today on a new project, take into consideration assumptions of a mall that was built even 5 years ago? Nobody. No, nobody should invest a dollar in that. So, we as a company have been talking a lot about what we want to do. And we're a very different company, because we're a company that is only focused on the coastal market in the state of California. That's all we do. We redevelop Navy bases. We go into the inner cities and repurpose space. And all we do is we sit there and think about, how do people want to interact going forward? That's the only thing that we look at as informing us. And we're taking some leaps of faith and doing some things that might look crazy to the outside world, but unless you actually do them, you're not going to know what's right and what's wrong. So when I look at you, and I read everyone's resume, you're actually really at the front end of what could become the think tank of how the space is going to change. And I use space because I don't want to use home. I don't want to use commercial because I don't know whether they're going to actually be the same. All I know is that this space as we knew it is going to be disrupted. We were talking about affordability. And the question was asked about, how do we deal with affordability? And I was saying, we've been saying that I'm actually going to bring somebody who designs boats to come and design a home for me, because they know how to create efficiency out of every inch rather than waste space. Is that going to be a right answer or wrong? I don't know. But I think unless we keep on asking the question and every day we realize that we are obsolete, we are not going to be able to reinvent our own relevance going forward. That's what you need to think about. And look, you're going to read a lot of case studies, and they're all good. But I'm telling you, ignore them. Now, nothing against academic. So, Dr. Martin Luther King, I think, said that it's almost always the dedicated creative minority will make the world a better place. Now, interesting words in that. Because the question is, what do we do to make the world a better place going forward? I think the biggest challenge for all of you, and I say you because I'm more towards the tail end of my career, whereas you are starting, is going to be how do you balance financial return with social and economic justice? And it's not an easy answer. And it's going to require a lot of creativity. And when I think today about what is the thing that keeps me up at night more than anything else, and we were talking about it, and that's why I think the School of Public Policy is critical to this. You have today technology that's disrupting very quickly. In other words, we're seeing everything move so quickly. But we're not seeing any movement on the public policy side to stay in sync. The driverless car is around the corner, and nobody has been talking about changing parking requirements, zoning, nothing like that. So if there's something I actually fear today, is that the private industry is moving so fast into the future, and the public sector is not going to stay in tune. And we all know that for the private industry to be able to implement in the United States of America, we need public policy to allow that to happen. I don't want to see the proving up of our own technology in Dubai or in Shanghai. It should be happening here, and that's that's the excitement I have about my involvement with Richard and with Jack on here, is because we need to now play a major role in educating policymakers as to what needs to be done for this country to be relevant in the future. Now, the other word that's interesting in that is the word minority. And if you look at the definition of minority, it's something like, it's a group of people in a population that's different than others that sometimes gets treated differently. And I find that very interesting because, every place in the world has different definition for a certain group of people, of minorities. We know what the definition is here. But I came from a part of the world where the minorities are defined differently. They're defined by religion, by sects. And I've lived as a minority all my life. I was a minority in the religion in my own country. And as a result, I know how it feels. And, coming to this country by legal definition, I don't qualify as a minority for, from a civil rights point of view. But by all other means, I am. I mean, I look Middle Eastern. I didn't grow up in this country and all that. Now, why is that? Why am I telling you this? Because I saw places where minorities were facing a concrete ceiling. There was no hope. And as much as we have issues, this country has made a huge amount of advances in that area. And yes, we have a lot to work. But I ask you not to create your own glass ceiling, because it's very easy for people who come from a certain segment to think that they cannot actually do what they want to do in life. And I can assure you, based on what I read from you and what you're doing over here, you have broken through that glass ceiling in your mind. Where you go is up to you. The sky is the limit. I stand in front of you as proof of that. Don't ever think of yourself any differently, because you are not. And the good news for you is you're going to be growing up with a whole generation that's going to be blind to a lot of these issues that define who we are as segments of society. And I say it because I often enough talk to people who will tell me that they're not ready to do something because they can't do it, because they belong to a certain category of people. It's in your mind. Somebody asked me once after 9/11, do I feel like people are looking at me differently, looking Middle Eastern? And my answer was no, because I don't see myself any different in my own eyes. And therefore, I am not actually cognizant to people. And often enough, what happens is we all think that people are thinking of us differently. So I say this to you because I wanted to actually personalize that comment, because I can actually say that to you. A lot of people cannot. I came to this country with nothing. I came to this country with, as I said, from a place that wasn't the most popular. I didn't grow up in this country. I was 27 years old. And I was able to do what I've done. Because there's no other country in the world that will enable you to do what I've done. So as you start now going into the next phase of your life, remember that you could be standing right here one day and giving the same type of a talk to a group of people who are in your position today. And don't ever, ever let anybody doubt that. So I say this to you, and I congratulate you on what you're doing, because there's something that came very clear in your resumes. The amount of dedication and the amount of eagerness that you have to keep on advancing was very clear. That was a common thread in all of you. Because some of you have had careers. It's very easy to sit down and say, why am I doing this? So I applaud you. And I hope that a couple of words I said today will resonate. You are going to be living in, I think, some of the most interesting times in history. And I only wish I was 30 years younger. But that's okay. I have a daughter who graduated from USC 4 years ago. And today she works for us. Actually, she works for Lynn. And I have a son who's finishing his third year at Price, who's going to come and join me when he's done. So hopefully with our generation, we'll be able to hand the baton to another generation that is hearing us about the importance of people. So let me just finish with one thing, because Jack mentioned some of the things we're doing, just to tell you how we look at things. So we're developing a Navy base in Orange County, the El Toro Navy base. And we look at it as a community that's going to live like a small city. We are building homes for every price point that we can. We're creating job housing balance. We look at the connectivity of people. We have a 12,000-seat amphitheater that we build where people can actually make friends for life. We're building schools. We build the largest sports complex in the country. We're creating a place where human relationship gets improved, because that's really what we do. Real estate is not about concrete. It's not about numbers. It's about people. So start with people. And I was saying, I went to School of Engineering, and I can't remember one exercise they gave me that had the human being in it. Not one. It was about pipes and concrete and drainage and all that, as if I'm building it for nobody. We do what we do for people. The only project that is not a redevelopment project for us is Newhall Ranch up in the city of Valencia. And we embarked on a program that we're very proud of, where we are building the first community in the world that's going to be a net zero greenhouse gas emission. 21,000 homes, 11.5 million square feet of commercial. And we will have a net zero greenhouse gas emission. So even when we're going into the greenfield area, which we don't do a lot of that, we are trying to find that balance I talked about between returns and the equity on the social and economic side. So that's what we do. That's what we spend all our times together. That's what we spent 20-some years working together on the same things. So congratulations again. Thank you very much for the nice introduction and for everything you guys do. And I hope to see you one day in the actual workforce.